it is no denying that we have always been underserved and we are treated like second-class citizen to men, right? I am a privileged white woman that lives in Los Angeles, and I am so aware of that.
This is a woman who was attractive enough and good enough as a host that was propelled through other giant companies, largely funded by men. Let's be clear. She has had it easier being a middling, attractive woman, parroting feminist talking points, than a man would. Over the weekend, Kamala Harris was, to her credit, helping victims of Hurricane Helene. I'm sorry. No. She was doing Call Her Daddy podcast. And by the way, just so you understand how out of touch, before we get to this segment, Kamala Harris is, the October 2nd episode was titled Blowjobs, Hall Passes, and Frat Daddies. Next up, the vice president.
Who's done all of those things.
And she said, can I get the rights to that title for my autobiography? And I said, we'll consider it. Thank you. So it taped last week, and this is why we do this live. Nothing up our sleeves, right? It's 9:58 Central right now. You can see it. We can confirm it right here on CNN for people who are watching. It's a commercial. This is something that has always bothered me. We'll have to pre-tape, for example, if we are taping with someone who's in a different time zone across the world, or sometimes people will be traveling in, like Ash Wednesdays. But there's something to be said for live broadcasting. It's a lot harder to cheat. It's harder to cheat both as the performer, as the content creator, and it's harder to cheat as far as the numbers. Anyone can buy views. Anyone can buy plays. That live ticker and live ticket sales, not how many people can you canvas and fit in a room for free, live ticket sales, live viewer number is the hardest number to cheat online. And so Kamala Harris avoids it like the plague. It was taped last week. It aired on Sunday, and it did include all of the hard-hitting, all of the hard-hitting journalism that you've come to expect from the blowjobs, hall passes, and frat daddy queen.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. I mean, daddy gang, to put it in our TikTok terms, I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use?
Pause. Men don't know. We just invented them and pay for them. And very often go to the store and buy them. And you joke about how we don't get the right size. Oh, all right. Hey, go purchase your man who's a football player in college a mouth guard. Or, I don't know, teach him how to throw a perfect spiral. This idea that men don't know anything about, do men know where a tampon goes? No. Why don't you show me through that chasm, that bottomless pit that you call your snatch? By the way, I don't know if it's your fault that you look like Jan the Muppet, but something tells me that your genetics are revealing. Oh, God. Hey, man, you don't know what a tampon is like, man. Just reverse the roles. Do women know what it's like? Okay, before we even started playing it, finish the clip.
Goes. Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they apparently don't know the answer.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive health care clinic, ever.
Really?
Yes.
Yes. No, not really.
I didn't know that, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's because you don't know anything. Just like you don't know the fact. Do men even? Hey, do you know that 92? I guess Jerry Maguire kid. 92% of workplace deaths are men. When was the last time you worked in a foundry?
It also sounded like Kamala said a hair club.
Yes.
Reproductive hair club.
Reproductive hair club.
No, sorry, that was.
Do you understand? Like the amount of convenience and comfort items that have been invented for women by men. I don't know if we can, I bet you would have a single-digit percentage going the opposite way as far as convenience and comfort items invented exclusively for men by women. This is the war of the sexes, and the left, they have to keep it alive.
Yeah.
And then they claim that you are being divisive if you respond to it. And this is, by the way, not addressed to all women, but the kind of women who are brainwashed by this show and the talking points we are about to get into. It starts off with, do men even talk about straw manning? Do men know where a tampon goes? You could go to the Deliverance, Hear the Banjo Hills of West Virginia Find the most hills have eyes looking hillbilly you could imagine, and I guarantee you, if you gave him a little doll and said, show me where the tampon goes, they're going to snatch. Every single man on earth knows, just like you know how contraception works in 2024. Let's stop playing the dummy game.
Yeah. Well, and look, our anger, like you said, it's at the host brainwashing this audience of young, and mostly young women that watch this show, and filling them with all of these lies as though it's truth. And by the way, I think the example with West Virginia, I'm like, yes, do you know how to clean a gun? What's the point? I don't understand the point that she's making there. Like, do you know where this goes? What if I answer generally there? Right. Are we good now? Does that make me now able to speak on women's issues? No, of course not.
Let me set this up. And I've had these conversations with not only we have some actually accomplished, strong, capable women in this office. You know what they never say? I am strong and independent. They just get shit done. Yes. You know, like the men do in the office, who are decent employees, just to be clear. Not all men, not all women, but it's not a constant soliloquy as to what they can do with their memories, okay? Yeah. It's completely irrelevant to what we do. But I will make this case, and you can tell me if you disagree. They're trying to paint this as though men don't understand the issues that are exclusive to women. I would argue that men have walked a mile in the shoes of women far more than women have with men. We may not have experienced it firsthand, but men are constant, because we have to, and we have had to historically, protect those rights, protect and recognize those gender differences in order to reproduce and have a healthy village, have a healthy tribe. We've had to at least kind of project ourselves into their shoes. I will tell you this. I think that most men know where a tampon goes. We don't know what it's like to have a monthly period. That's true. But women often don't know what it's like to go your entire life without ever receiving a compliment once from a stranger. That's the life that men live. Women don't know what it's like. And I don't know if you've put yourself in these shoes. Imagine walking into high school every single day knowing that imminent violence is possible. Every single day. It's not gossip. It's not ostracizing. Men grow up under the perpetual threat of violence. You step out of line, you get your ass kicked. How many women know what it's like to have their ass kicked in front of their friends and being forced to eat dirt? How many women know what it's like to actually be physically done? And I don't just mean in an isolated scenario, as part of your developmental process. Hey, how many women know what it's like? And this is something where you often get women will say, men are infantilizing children. I don't know if you know this, but men are constantly infantilized as they are raised by people who love them. They're coaches, for example. Yeah. Do you know what it's like to have a coach grab your helmet, rattle it, and say, what are you doing? Get your dumb ass in the game, and smack you, and not hate that person, and not say you have no right to talk down to me or mansplain to me? I don't think women have put themselves in the shoes of men quite a whole lot. I don't think that women understand or have tried to be understanding of what it's like to be coached, what it's like to be bombarded with the message that, hey, you are only loved conditionally. You will have to I don't know if you know this. You know who told men that first? God. He said, you'll toil by the sweat of your brow. And he told women, you have greater pain in childbirth, right? These are unfortunately the consequences to the fall of man. But I actually think that women are less understanding of men, or even less interested in making the attempt than most men that I have met, as a blanket statement. You can let me know if you disagree.
And you know what I've never told any of the women in this office? You don't understand about men, so you don't have an opinion. Right. That's what I was saying before. Of course, that doesn't buy me the right if I know where a tampon goes, because I already have the right to have an opinion. Right. Just like they have a right to have an opinion about anything else that's going on. Yep. I don't mind you talking about a men's issue. If you don't understand it completely, fine. I don't care. You still have a right to talk about it, idiots.
Yeah, but it doesn't go both ways. Like Nick DiPaolo said, like women say, you want to have an opinion. How many of you have carried a baby? He goes, all right. How many have carried a football? Get the hell off SportsCenter. So let's go through some of the claims that they make. And Kamala Harris is on the We Hate Men podcast, that women have to work harder. And let me just, I know the irony here that she's speaking with Kamala Harris. The host is Alex Cooper, of whom I'm not fond. Here, let's just watch.
Sitting across from you, I think, as women, we have to work 10 times harder. We got to be smarter. We got to play the game to even get our foot in the door sometimes. Can you tell the daddy gang?
Pause. Unless you're filleting the mayor, Can you point me to, and this is why it matters.
That's a difficult process.
This is why it matters. Can you point me to one example of a man in office who got their first official position in government exclusively as a result of being an above average lay? There are many women. We know that. Kamala Harris is just the most egregious example. So, and I'm not saying that that's all women, but men don't have that same option. No one's going to pay to watch any of us self-satisfy on OnlyFans. We're not going to get ahead by sleeping with a woman in a position of authority. Saying that it's harder, well, you know what? That's one arrow in your quiver. If you're Kamala Harris, or as they were once referred to, dime store floozy. Continue the clip.
People tell you no. When people look at you and doubt you, what does that ignite in you?
So I've been told that many times.
Uh-oh.
And through the course of my career, I've been told, at one point, you're too young. I've been told, oh, nobody like you has ever done that before. Oh, they're not ready for you. Oh, and this is the one that kills me. Oh, it's going to be a lot of hard work, right? As though we don't like hard work. And here's my response. I don't hear no. I don't hear no. And I urge all the daddy gang, don't hear no. Just don't hear it.
Here's the problem. I'm getting mixed signals. Because I was told for a very long time that no means no. And so I know that this wouldn't be a sexist podcast. She's saying don't hear no. So what I'm hearing now is that if we both had a couple of drinks, yes means yes, and no means come again? Yes. Can you imagine if a man said this? I'm sorry, I don't hear no. No! I can't hear you.
I listen to Kamala.
Like a Venezuelan migrant rapist?
Also, that's the person you want on the nuke button.
Yes.
Madam President, no.
No. I can't hear you.
Nuclear holocaust.
If men said, I don't hear no, women have to work so much harder. Again, we don't have the option of filleting a mayor to get a job. But let's take that off the table. Can you tell me can you point me to one law where men, particularly white men in this country, have an advantage systemically? I don't mean that people like people who are similar to themselves. Is there a quota? Is there affirmative action? Is there a movement that exists?
The protections?
Or are white men told to sit down and shut up on issues as it relates to women, even though it affects them directly, and to check their privilege? I'm sorry, I'm just not buying in the 21st century that women have to work extra hard. Kamala Harris? No. AOC? Absolutely not. It's not even close. Let's continue now, and this is the issue where they always want to get to. This is why she's on the Call Me Daddy podcast. They always try and, in turn, they try and feather the abortion issue in behind all other rights, as though it's not unique, because it's the only right that they, of course, for which they advocate, that involves, arguably, though not arguably scientifically, it's pretty much settled science, the infringing upon another body's rights. It's the only law, when you're talking about abortion, it's the only scenario where a human being can legally inflict damage upon another living human being without consent. If you acknowledge that it's a life, and certainly at 9 months, we'll get to that, certainly at the point when there's 10 fingers, 10 toes. You don't have 20 fingers, you don't have 20 toes, you don't have 2 hearts, you don't have 2 brains, you don't have 2 central nervous systems. It's the only scenario in this country where you can legally inflict harm upon another living being without their consent. But they try and act like that's not the case. So Kamala went on to explain to Cooper the terrible things that women do in abortion. I'm sorry, to get abortions.
Imagine she's in a state with an abortion ban. 1 out of 3 women are, by the way, in our country. And she's a mom. So she's going to have to figure out, one, God help her if she has affordable childcare. God help her if she has paid leave. And then she's going to
Hold on, pause. I think she meant to say God help her.
Yeah.
If she doesn't have those things, or God bless her if she does. But Kamala is as Kamala do. Continue.
Go to the airport, stand in a TSA line.
No.
sit on a plane next to a perfect stranger.
What?
Awful.
To go to a city where she's never been.
Pause.
Girl.
You are describing every outgoing flight since the history of ever. Let's take that exact same scenario. Hey, we were going to my buddy's bachelor party this weekend. But first,
Oh man,
we had to book a flight. And I had to sit next to a stranger who I've never met before to go to a place that I've never been. Your buddy be like, yeah, you booked a round trip.
Don't get me started on the fact that the terminal didn't have Starbucks.
Yes. It's just, you have to get on a plane with a stranger to a place you've never been. That is a flight. You've described a flight.
But hold on. She said, you have to stand in line at the TSA. Why is that a part of the equation too?
And then once you're done, the
violation?
only media outlet you have is Hudson News, really?
Yeah. And the newspapers are overpriced. They don't even have my biography.
And no one knows why you're flying.
Yes.
It's not like you have an abortion A engraved on your head.
Yeah.
You're flying out of state to get an abortion. It's like nobody cares.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Are you TSA pre or are you second-class citizen abortion line? That's over there.
It's over there.
Oh,
yes.
you're in your third trimester. You're not supposed to fly, but it's an abortion, so it's fine.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
no problem.
Well, we actually have a stretchy flight suit for you. We got that from the Air Force.
Fantastic.
Oh, sorry. Continue the clip.
To receive the care she needs, she's going to probably have to get right back on that plane because she's got those kids. Her best friend's probably not with her because that's who's taking care of the kids.
So she knows how kids are made. Got it.
To get back in that TSA line, to get back on a plane, to go home.
Sounds like hell.
I guess I didn't know that it was possible to speak to an audience of leftist feminists and somehow make people less sympathetic to the process of abortion.
Well, look, to be very
I mean,
clear,
she does have a good point about the transportation system in our
sucks.
country.
You're right.
Yeah, it sucks.
TSA is a violation of human rights most of the time.
And look, before she goes on that plane, she's going to have to plan her day. She's going to have to use a calendar. If she's on a plane where she doesn't like what they serve to eat, she may have to eat breakfast. Grab a bowl, a spoon, perhaps, milk, cereal. If she's lactose intolerant, oat milk. These are the things you don't think of because no one cares. We only care about the murder of another life and whether that is in fact another life. That's if you don't agree that it's another life, fine, that case can be made. But we're talking about layovers.
Not even that. You never heard the word layover. You heard
not.
a TSA line and a stranger on a
she
plane.
didn't even bring
That's it. What about lost luggage? Don't freaking get me
Call
started.
Pete Buttigieg and whatever that Matt Damon lookalike was. I forgot his name.
This luggage theft guy.
So
Earl,
let's
whoever.
continue now because what they really want to do is simply make this a play to try and pivot this election that they are losing to abortion. And Kamala Harris flat out lies. But don't expect fact checking from the media on this because it's not a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Former President Trump claimed that some states are executing babies after birth. Can you just clarify?
That is not happening anywhere in the United States. It is not happening, and it's a lie. It's a bold-faced
It is
lie
happening, and you're lying.
that he is suggesting that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? He is suggesting that women in their 9th month of pregnancy
Correct.
are electing to have an abortion. Are you kidding? That is so outrageously inaccurate, and it's so insulting
There it
to
is.
suggest that would be happening and that women would be doing that.
It's the feminist playbook. It's feign offense, victim, so people don't. It is so insulting to tell me that statistically there were 10,000 late-term abortions last year, and there are 9 states plus D.C. that have 0 limits on abortion. Is it insulting? Is reality insulting? It is true. 9, including, by the way, your running mate,
Hold on.
Mr. Walz's, she just said that that's not happening. It is happening. It's the law. It's enshrined into law in 9 states plus D.C., and last year alone, 10,000 late-term abortions. We don't know how many of them were at 9 months.
Bring that overlay back up, please. The majority of which take place for elective reasons.
All of them. Almost all of them.
Here's
Less
what
than 1% of all abortions. Less than 1% are rape, incest, or health of the mother. That's a fact.
But that's the argument that they would have made. It's
Of course.
like, hey, at that point, it has to be done because of the
Yes.
health of the mother. Almost all of them for elective reasons.
Third trimester
That's
abortions.
the end of the argument. That is the absolute end of the argument, period, done. And you made a good point when we talked about this earlier. Okay, if that is appalling, if that is insulting that women would be doing that, if that is something that is completely beyond the pale, outlaw it.
Ban it.
You have an opportunity today to put your campaign in line with outlawing something that you think is not happening, first of all, so it should be pretty easy to outlaw. And second of all, is abhorrent to even consider.
Let me make it easier. Before even getting to outlawing it, how about when asked, would you put any limitations on abortion? Answering anything other than no. It is so insulting that people throw in my face that I don't believe in any limitations on abortion whatsoever. Sorry, you don't get to take the moral high ground by saying it's insulting. Kamala Harris and Miss Cooper, you don't get to do that. It's 10 to 15,000 late-term abortions every single year entirely for elective reasons. And 9 states plus D.C. have it on the books as law that you cannot restrict abortions. There are no exceptions whatsoever up until and including birth, period. And the media just says, that's not true. Again, go check the references. You can read the laws for these states.
Yeah. And then Tim Walz basically passed a law, essentially signed a law, that removed the requirement to save the baby's life if it was born alive, right? The born alive thing. And basically just provide care.
The babies who have survived abortions. They're not even, they don't even have to do that.
Fetus hospice.
Yeah. It's the law. If you
didn't,
if you didn't intend to abort the baby, it's the law. The hospital has to require life-saving care.
Yes.
The only change is that you don't want it. So let me ask you this.
Exactly.
What defines a human life? I will tell you this. My definition is at the moment of fertilization. Why? Because that's when new human DNA, unique to that human being, is created. Okay, you may not agree with that. Let's go to a heartbeat. Okay. Now let me ask you this. Where do you define a life? In Minnesota, it is defined legally by whether the mother wants it. 9-month-old baby. If you weren't trying to have an abortion, it's the law because it's a life to protect it, provide it life-saving care. If the mom says, I didn't want this baby, the law says you don't because it's no longer a life. Should we determine life based on whether the parent wants it? Because if that's the case, well, let's get to this next point because I have an argument here. This one is a tired old argument that only women have to struggle, toil, and struggle against the government for their bodily autonomy.
I want to pose this question more to you and the Daddy Gang, but one of the biggest conversations in this year's election revolves around a woman's body.
No, it doesn't.
Yep. I want to take a moment and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision
I know what you're going to ask.
about a man's body.
Yes.
Let's
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Is there any law?
No. No. It's no.
Yes, yes, many laws, many laws. As a matter of fact, the exact same laws that apply to you. I don't know if you know this. The exact same laws that apply to you in your bodily autonomy apply to men. So, for example, neither a woman nor a man can use their body to commit assault, to commit battery, to commit murder, to commit theft, to libel or slander. Basically, the laws mean you cannot use your body to inflict damage upon another citizen, right? Your rights end where someone else's rights begin. I can wave my hand unless someone's face is in the way. Now I'm violating their rights, right? Your rights end where someone else's individual bodily autonomy rights begin. Outside of that, no, you have the exact same rights. The only exception, can we just be honest about this? The only exception is the scenario in which another life happens to be located inside of your body. That is the only exception. I think it's remarkably consistent. As a matter of fact, the only consistent point of view is the person who says you cannot commit a violent act against another fellow human being, period, rather than the person who says, well, you can't do it except for when it's small enough, or except for if it's in your body, or except for if it's actually kind of out of your body and you need to finish the job. It's the only time, it's the only scenario in the United States of America where a human being can knowingly inflict damage upon another living being's life. And we are talking about 10 to 15,000 late-term abortions per year, meaning that is a viable human being. There is no debate about that.
Wow.
And you know what? Actually, let me give you some, let's take that off the table. Selective service.
The
is
draft,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
You know,
which fight and die for your country. Does that affect your body?
I know. I understand. Women will say, "Are you really worried about selective service?" Well, hold on a second. I get the tone, but it's about what it represents. That's no small thing. It's not just selective service. That means that men have to resign themselves to dying for their family and communities, for them to protect their country and their loved ones. Period. They die first, not just in war. In a natural disaster scenario, does anyone doubt for a second? Let's take selective service off the table. Do you think that with the damage in Hurricane Helene, do you not think that there have been many thousands of scenarios where there are groups of people and men were saying, okay, get the kids and the women out first. We'll buy you some time. Let's make sure to get all the women on the buses first. Get out. Let's get all the vehicles to the women. We're going to try and find something else. Hey, that's the fastest route out. Make sure the women and children. Every single time there was a group of 2 or more people, the men, I guarantee you, most men put their bodies on the line. That's what selective service represents. It's no small thing. Yep. It is kind of a trump card, and that's why 92% of workplace deaths are men. Let's go back, though, to abortion. There is a scenario, I would argue, where men forego their bodily autonomy rights in a way that women do not. Let's take the exact same scenario that she's talking about right there. Okay? Man has baby with woman. Man gets woman pregnant. She gets on a flight. Okay? Man decides he wants to own up to his responsibilities and be a father to the child he created. So while she has to go through the trauma of a flight, getting on a plane with a stranger, with an arrival and itinerary, that man knows that that woman is going off with his future son or daughter that he wants to raise, and there's nothing he can do about it. He has no say in it. He completely forgoes his rights to his own bodily autonomy. Hey, how about this? If we want to say, hey, we want to even the playing field, if you want to take any responsibility for your actions, that would be great. But if you don't, at least don't forbid men from being able to do so. I think that if a man signs a paper, says, I will raise this child that I helped create, that child needs to be delivered. Now, I know, here's the problem, is we've conceded so much territory because I can hear the responses. You would force a woman to carry a baby? Remember, it's the only exception to the law that we just described. No, I'm not forcing anyone to do anything. I'm simply enforcing the exact same laws we always do as a country in forbidding you from killing it. And that's assuming that we reach the point in 2024 that you don't understand contraception, chastity, motherhood, adoption, and you've reached that point and you have a man who says, you know what, I do, I'm willing to raise that child. Why does the man forego his rights? And I'm sure there will be some men out there who would try and convince a woman to get an abortion, to try and abdicate their duty. Those men are piles of human garbage, right? If we agree on that, can we also agree that if a man is willing to be a father to the children he created, you don't get to unilaterally strip him of that right? That's like being an Indian giver with sperm.
Ew. Yeah. That's so gross.
Any other scenario? Why are we only focused on the woman's? Well, she doesn't forego her right to proactively end a life. But what about the man's right to simply reactively preserve the life he's already created?
Yeah.
All right. And here's the overarching theme, and I think why Kamala Harris went on this show. It's bad. Also, Kamala Harris is allergic to personal responsibility or accountability in much the way that a vampire is to garlic. That is the overarching theme of this show, disguised as reproductive rights.
It's been very difficult as a young adult in this country right now is like, there are so many policies I could sit here and talk to you about, but Call Her Daddy has been rooted in supporting women and talking about women and lifting women up because it is no denying that we have always been underserved and we are treated like second-class citizen to men, right? I do want to focus on abortion for a moment because...
Give me one example. Let's just take abortion off the table. I believe we've covered that thoroughly. Even if you disagree, just for the sake of argument, we have to acknowledge that abortion would be a nuanced issue because it's the only scenario where it involves another life. Okay, I'm repeating myself. Give me one other example where women are second-class citizens. One example where rights are afforded to men in the United States of America today that are not afforded to women. One example. One. Continue.
2 years ago, Roe v. Wade was overturned and women lost their constitutional right to an abortion. I put out an episode about it. I flew to North Carolina. I went to a preferred women's health center. I met with women that were getting screamed at and chanted at and called baby killers. And it was the most eye-opening experience I've ever had because I am a privileged white woman that lives in Los Angeles and I am so aware of that. I was raised Catholic.
Well, pause. Go down to Skid Row, stark naked, and fix it. I'm a white, privileged woman from Los Angeles. You could fix it. You could forego your privilege at any moment, Miss Podcaster. Keep playing.
Your $40 million a year contract.
Yes. Yes.
Just acknowledge.
I think I did math correctly there.
I think so.
Pretty close.
40 plus.
Abortion is a sin. And when I put out that episode, I had a lot of women reach out to me saying like, wow, I live in the South and I never thought about it that way. Like maybe I am pro-choice because I won't get an abortion because of my religion, but why should we control what someone else wants to do?
Yeah, this is someone who's never thought about issues seriously their entire life, which is why it's very eye-opening that Cooper has a massive audience with a podcast. It's 5 million weekly listeners, I believe. Oh, no, wait, it's not eye-opening. It was bought and paid for by other corporations who decided, yeah, you're good enough. This is not someone who's informed themselves. This is not someone who's developed an audience organically because people thought that she had something insightful to offer. This is a woman who was attractive enough and good enough as a host that was propelled through other giant companies, largely funded by men. Let's be clear. She has had it easier being a middling, attractive woman, parroting feminist talking points, than a man would. That opportunity would not be afforded to them. And by the way, this is also an important point here. They're talking about these rights which are under attack from men. Again, you cannot point me to one example, but let's just be honest here. Women's rights, in the same way that smaller, weaker, less capable men's rights are an illusion. So I'm not saying because you're a woman. What I am saying is that rights are only as enforceable as those who have the fortitude and ability to enforce it. Your rights only exist if you have a powerful enough protecting force, be it military, intelligence, to ensure that people who want to do away with your rights don't come in and take them. It applies the same. Now, it applies to a lot of men. It applies to all women because you can't fight the wars. That's why you're not enlisted for the draft. Let's be really clear about this. If men collectively, particularly the strong men in positions of power, wanted to strip you of your rights, tomorrow you have no rights. That's the cold, hard reality. I'm not saying that it would be right. I'm saying that it happens all the time. For proof, go to any country in the Middle East, or almost any country in the continent of Africa. Women's rights, just as weak men's rights, are an illusion. They're afforded to you by people who understand that. And by the way, here's the cold water. They're afforded to you by people who believe in the founding fathers, rich white guys, according to you, vision for this country, and that rights of all individuals are to be protected. But we just throw it around, women's rights. If the powerful men here didn't want you to have any rights, you wouldn't be having a conversation. You certainly wouldn't be arguing that it's a gross violation of human rights to not be able to kill your baby in the 9th month. I'm sorry, that never happens, except we want to ensure that we still have the legal right to do so. What do you think would happen, for example, if Iran was not kept on any kind of a leash and they could dominate globally? What do you think your rights look like? They don't. We don't need to take Iran. China. They don't. Coney from Africa. Anywhere throughout all of human history, women's rights, as they're discussed on this show, are cute, but they're an illusion. They're not real in the sense that you haven't achieved them because of your fight for them. You could fight as hard as you want. You could never grant anybody a right because you'd lose. And there should just be a little bit of recognition and gratitude that one nation in the history of the world said, hey, you know what? We're in a complete position of power and authority, and this is pre-technology where it really did come down to brute force, and we're going to use it to ensure that a group of people who could do nothing to forward these rights is afforded them. The way you describe it is an illusion. The way it exists systematically deconstructs your entire point to begin with. And these people are voices for millions of Americans. This podcast is the number 4 most listened to podcast in America, 90% female audience, and the first, if she were, God forbid, see, I'm using that correctly, to become president, the first female president would be one who got her foot in the door through fellatio. Hey, if you like this video, you should know that there are videos every day because they come from the full live show weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want more of a sample, you can click this video next to me. I don't know what it is. Could be a change of mind, could be a debate, it could be one of my appearances on The View. Have your puke bucket.